Then what is this universe? It's essentially a collection of information all around us. Astrology doesn't work in isolation. It has to work in conjunctions, aspects, yogas coming into play. This Ketu tends to do that. Even in Western cultures where this could be a prominent habit, you lose touch. Your connection diminishes. People with Ketu in the fourth house must go away from their home. It is a very strong possibility that they might find professional success once they shift away from their place of birth. Hi guys, welcome back to Vedic Astrology. Today I'm starting a new series where I will be talking about placement of different planets across all houses in your Vedic chart. I'm sure you've had a chance to check out my other videos where we've done a playlist of lords of different houses across all houses, as well as I've talked about the Mahadasha of different planets, which will give you a construct to manage space and time and understand as to what Vedic astrology brings to your life. Now, in this continuation of the series, today we will be starting with Ketu and understand that what happens when Ketu moves or gets placed in different houses within a Vedic chart. Before we understand the placement and the significances of Ketu in each house, let's try and decode what does Ketu signify. Ketu, you would have heard the story of Swarbhanu. If you've not, I would urge you to go ahead and check out the story on Google, and I'm pretty confident you will find many sources which are going to elaborate on that. So I'm not going to waste your time in that direction. But I am going to help you to understand the significances of Ketu. Ketu denotes the lower half of the body of Swarbhanu. When Vishnu killed Swarbhanu, the two parts got disassociated, and the one that fell right at Vishnuji's feet was known as Ketu, or also denoted as the south node of the moon. Now, of course, being a demon and being a fighter, it is considered to be a malefic planet. That is a natural tendency that gets associated with this planet. Because he got nirvana in a way, moksha in a way, yes, he is considered to be somebody who would not die, but he still fell on the feet of Vishnu. There is that association of liberation that comes with Ketu. You associate a certain level of spirituality that gets associated with it. Ketu denotes the kind of precision we have in our life. It signifies the perfection that you would look forward to any kind of deeds that you're doing. The kind of meticulous behavior that you bring in terms of your thinking, in the artwork that you do, in any project that you pick up, or in your daily lifestyle. You would see there are so many people who would not step out of their home without an ironed shirt, or their hair combed in a very specific fashion, in a very specific pattern, so to speak. Yes, there are significances of a planet like Venus when we're talking about dressing up in a certain sense, but it is that meticulousness which is what I'm referring to, which is seen through Ketu itself. This Ketu denotes liberation. It's liberation at times from the evil self. It is liberation from the pain. It is liberation from anything that you can associate as a malefic impact in your life, or what Ketu, for example, would consider malefic in your life. Ketu also denotes perfection, the quality of work that you're trying to deliver. And why perfection? See, it is so hard to be perfect at anything that you are going beyond Six Sigma quality of outcomes. And I'm so sorry, I just keep on bringing these scientific or corporate terms, but this is me. You'll have to bear with me with that. But the point I'm trying to make is that it is so difficult to achieve the highest level but because Ketu is a work in progress, It is the amount of efforts that you've been making over a period of time to gain expertise in a certain area. And that is what Ketu denotes as well, because Ketu did strive for getting that nectar, that elixir. And though he failed, he yet succeeded by consuming it and then reaching the ultimate goal of being close to Vishnu. It's like getting nirvana, getting moksha, which Rahu could not get on the other side. So, this perfection is also seen through Ketu. Ketu also signifies detachment. Why? Because once you reach the level of nirvana, moksha, nishkam as it is written in Bhagavad Gita as well, what you are saying is that now you are able to disassociate yourself with any emotion and just able to focus on the process. And you see, all this is interconnected because when you are trying to perfect something as well, you will disassociate yourself with all the errors. You are actually striking off those errors in the product that you're creating, in the personality that you're shaping in yourself, or whatever you're trying to achieve for that matter. So I don't see the level of detachment distant from perfection. But there is an incompleteness associated with these two planets, Rahu and Ketu. You also see a level of dissatisfaction that comes in. Ketu is emotions. He rules from heart. He is not able to think because he doesn't have a mind. That has gone with Rahu. So when that is happening, there is a certain level of confusion as well that gets associated with Ketu. Yes, it is predominantly seen through Rahu, but it is the confusion that is casted by Rahu. On the other hand, with Ketu, the confusion comes automatically. It's not a magic play. It's the lack of clarity at times. And I'm talking two very different things. I'm talking about perfection, and at the same time, I'm talking about confusion, because Ketu will denote the entire spectrum of it, depending on how strong or weak it is in your chart and how it is working out for you. I was watching this interesting video about quantum mechanics, and guys, you know, I have deep interest in physics and I like to research around those subjects as well. And there was this trigger of thought in my mind, and you'll not find it anywhere on YouTube. It is my own thinking, which I like to share with you guys. That what is this universe? It's essentially a collection of information all around us. The gravitational force is information. In fact, when we talk about the quantum entanglement as well, I'm sorry I'm digressing a bit, but I will tie it down to Ketu. We see that how two different objects behave in a certain fashion and can be predicted to a certain extent depending on that entanglement itself. I believe Ketu is like that entanglement. It is that connection that happens for our soul through the course of our, different lives. It carries that piece of information with us. It's a shadow planet. It's not a real planet that is existing, and that is why it is called as the south node of the moon. And it is carrying that information for us. And that is why, folks, when we talk about perfection associated with Ketu, we realize that this perfection comes to a person after a lot of practice. It could be boredom as well. And I will bring that angle as well when we get into specific houses. But yes, it carries that piece of information with us. And that is why we see that a lot of times Ketu is the planet that denotes past life karmas. It denotes past life information. It denotes expertise that your soul has gathered over a long period of time. And I hope if you are able to assimilate these pieces of Ketu in your life, it will become so simple for you to understand that how this Ketu is pivoting in your own life, how is he performing in your own chart, and what you can derive with this Ketu's placement through the course of its journey, be it in dasha, which is in time, or in planetary positions, in house positions in terms of space. So if this logic of mine is making sense to you, Let us try and understand what would happen when Ketu comes and gets placed into specific houses in our chart. And we will get started with the first house itself. Ketu in the first house denotes that you will have Rahu bang opposite to it in the seventh house. Now, of course, we understand that Ketu is the one that carries a retrograde motion all throughout. So, coming in the first house, the very first observation that you will have is first house, it denotes your head, your face, your physical shape, your body, your form. And a lot of times I've observed that people with this kind of a placement will have some sort of a mark on their face, on their forehead, around their eyebrows or cheek area where they would have hurt themselves at some point in time. Could be a minor accident, a scratch, some sort of a cut that would be seen a lot of times with people having Ketu in their first house itself. And that's the first indication. Why? Because Ketu's precision. He likes to cut. He's surgical. And that is the physical significance that it brings to our life. At a mental and emotional level, people with Ketu in the first house are usually emotional thinkers. Now, guys, I want to, make sure that I give a caveat. When we are talking about these placements of planets in a particular house, I am at this point in time considering only the individual impact. You have to understand that astrology doesn't work in isolation. It has to work in conjunctions, aspects, yogas coming into play. And that is going to be the next level that we will move on as we go ahead and further dig deep into this. But at this point in time, when we see Ketu in the first house, then we see that it tends to bring that level of completeness or perfection in your chart. So at a mental level, you will find that a lot of times these folks, they tend to make a lot of emotional decisions. Their judgment could be cloudy. They might not have an absolute clarity about the decisions they are making or the future plan that they are putting in place. Most of the times you will observe that people would like to run as it flows, as it comes to them. Have you heard people saying go with the flow? Lot of times people with Ketu in this placement would like to actually embed that in their life without going and talking about that thought process to anybody else. They will just follow that. I have another observation that people with Ketu in the first house, especially in their childhood, are crybabies. They cry for everything. They feel frustration all around them. They feel irritated because other people around them are not able to decipher what they need. Sometimes they find it difficult to express their thought process and ideas, communicate it to them within their vicinity itself. It typically happens in childhood. It does reduce over a period of time, or the kind of strength you see in your Mercury or in your Lagna Lord, because impact of Ketu will also be dependent on the Lagna Lord itself. To a certain extent, the dignity of Mars as well in your planet, in your chart. But people having Ketu in their first house, they have this difficulty of articulating and expressing their emotion in the right way. Rahu does the bang opposite, and we will talk about it. And that is why you will find, in fact, they will get attracted towards people who are bang opposite to this nature, who are much more, expressive, able to ideate and pin down their thoughts and showcase. But at the same time, people with the first house in Ketu will be very, very precise in whatever task they take up. And it will be very simple, like cleaning up your home. They will be very precise in terms of identifying that one nook and corner in the home that has some sort of dirt deposited. They will be very specific, let's say, within the kitchen in terms of adding that right amount of flavor, that right amount of spices that they need to inculcate whilst preparing set of ingredients or dish or cuisine that they're working on. That is a strength as well as a weakness for you guys. The other bit that you will notice with this is they tend to detach themselves usually with their surroundings. They like to ideate in their own mind, and they have a very differentiated thought process too. It's just that the world feels that they are a bit weird, for the lack of better word. Mind you, they are not unsuccessful people. Ketu first house can bring a lot of success in your professional life, in your personal life, in your monetary aspects as well. Yet, they will have a tendency to disassociate themselves with all those things. There will be a very interesting way of observing people as well. You know, the way Ketu first house observes other people could be connected with certain histrionics, a very specific kind of body language. It could be like raising the eyebrows, looking diagonally at somebody, not being able to make continuous eye contact. Again, I repeat, a lot of these things will change depending on the conjunctions, but I'm just talking about Ketu in itself giving a certain kind of behavior to the people. This Ketu brings a level of spirituality, and that is not to be construed with religious behavior, but they have their own ideology, if I may, an own ideology of looking at things, observing things, and taking calls on certain issues which could be very different from the common sense. People with Ketu in the first house must pet a dog. If not, they should feed dogs in the street or anywhere outside in shelter homes and stuff. You must somehow try and give, because Ketu denotes flag as well, right? And it is seen from a dog's tail, which is the highest part of a dog's body usually, unless you're talking about a Doberman. But it is usually seen from that angle. So taking care, and dogs are very, very possessive about their tails, and they don't like that touch specifically. So you will have to see that if Ketu is placed in your first house, how can you take care of a dog? And a lot of problems in your life are actually addressed with this one simple remedy itself. Then there is a certain tendency of working in isolation. There is a certain tendency of working within themselves. They turn out to be amazing individual contributors over leaders. Now, I said that it is a flag bearer, it goes onto the top of the heights, but you need some sort of a conjunction for that to happen. Yes, a Saturn conjunction, though it forms Shapit Yoga, but it can bring you heights. But most of the times, or with Sun, where it forms a Dvajkirti Yoga, or with a Mars, and I think I should not be digressing myself in terms of talking about conjunctions at this point in time. But the point I'm trying to make is that usually natives with this combination, they tend to do pretty well when they are trying to perfect an idea by themselves and then maybe percolate to the other people around them. These people, they would like to have some time of recuperation of their mental peace as well. They might not be very good in terms of taking care of their body, but a strong Ketu will act like Mars and could bring interest in, bodybuilding and gymming and stuff too. But some of the suited professions for these people are in the field of medicine. They are in the field of surgery specifically. It could be in this space where you can leverage some level of spirituality. Astrologers can be seen through this combination itself. I said that Ketu is a carrier of past life knowledge as well. So you will realize that a lot of times Ketu in first house brings a very strong intuitive capability in people. You are able to sense premonition, omens. They are natural to people. And this is going to be different, slightly different for the people in Ketu in the 12th house, where dreams will play a role. Yes, to a certain extent, premonitions as well. But intuitive capabilities of people with Ketu in the first house are usually very strong, especially if it is for a Scorpio ascendant itself. Ketu becomes exalted or is the co-owner of Scorpio for that matter. I hope you are able to also envisage the impact of this Ketu's aspect. This Ketu will be aspecting to your 5th house, 7th house, and to your 9th house. And the significances of all these three houses will become prominent. Sometimes you will find there could be delays, challenges with respect to childbirth. It could bring in a certain level of problems with respect to completing your degree, stock market trading, speculative activities. Usually 1-7 axis, which I keep on talking in my predictions as well for Rahu and Ketu, is not my favorite position, specifically when it comes to relationships and marital bond. And that is where we will have to observe. I will do specific dynamics on that as well at a later video. But you will have to be a bit careful because you will find turbulences in your married life with this combination. It is going to bring some level of disconnect with your father, or maybe you might not find aligned working in your profession as well at times with your bosses. On a good side, it might actually create more travel opportunities for you. It might bring you in contact with people of spiritual mindset itself. And that will also shape your persona to a certain extent. But mind you, if you have Ketu in your own house, in your first house, you have your own thinking. And it is very hard to change that. It being a shadow planet, the dignity of this Ketu is going to be determined by the dignity of your Lagna Lord itself. And now I would urge you to go and check out the Lagna Lord video again to see the impact of Ketu and see how it maps to your chart. Moving ahead, we will now talk about Ketu in the second house. Now, when Ketu comes into the second house, there is a very obvious thing that you will notice is that it is going to bring in some level of disparity, misalignment, diversion in your thinking versus the thinking of your family. It is the first change that you will observe. Your ideological principles will be different from everyone in your family. It, yes, gives a possibility of uprooting yourself from your place of birth or separation from your family itself and going and living in a different location. But it may not necessarily mean into a physical manifestation itself and could be a very mental manifestation, emotional manifestation as well. You will realize that you have this level of discognizance from your family. You might not be able to align with the ethics, values, principles, or ways of functioning of your family. And it not necessarily is bad. It could be a combination where you notice that you are born in a lineage of practicing, say, certain habits as a profession for that matter. You're born in a family of lawyers, you're born in a family of astrologers or doctors, but you have a different theme as to how you want to lead your life. And this is what this Ketu is going to prompt you to do. But at a physical level, yes, it does bring a possibility of separation. And you will see that in your 20s. Ketu does mature at the age of 48, but you will see in your early life itself, in the first half of your life itself, that there will be a definitive separation. I know in the Western, the culture itself is to move out of the home and, try and establish yourself for your college and stuff. But for families, for cultures where that is not very prominent, this Ketu tends to do that. Even in Western cultures where this could be a prominent habit, you lose touch. Your connection diminishes, it reduces considerably if this Ketu is coming into effect. And now, since this Ketu is malefic naturally, he would enjoy tamasic food here. He is going to enjoy spicy delicacies, lots of flavors is what he will seek. And it could push you all the way towards gluttony as well. You could make you have for more and more quantity of food and rich food for that matter. It could be your interest in terms of, I don't want to use a term like tamasic food specifically, but yes, it can bring your interest in that direction. However, it would force you to consume food which is rich naturally by nature. And probably if you have a challenge of Venus in your chart, then you must be very, very watchful towards the quality of food that you consume, or even Jupiter for that matter, because Jupiter is a natural significator of the second house, right? You will have to look at the dignity and strength of your second lord as well in this case. But Ketu here will draw you towards that kind of food habits, and it also gives this beautiful quality of people with Ketu in the second house that they enjoy feeding others as well. They maybe we can consider this to be a spiritual aspect, significance of Ketu coming into play in the second house, where people with this combination enjoy when they are able to bring that same level of culinary satisfaction to others. You could be the people who would host a big party and you would want people to, enjoy the delicacies that you've prepared for them, offered to them. Now, guys, when I'm talking in these videos, do not think I'm talking about lavish lifestyle and, only people who can afford, because Ketu in the second house, it kind of reduces and impacts your savings as well. And that's a big challenge that comes into play with this placement of Ketu. And it doesn't mean that people with this combination cannot be rich. They can be. It's just that they struggle in terms of enriching their bank balance to the level of incomes they are making. Somebody makes $1 million, they will struggle saving $300,000, which is 330% of their income. And somebody who's making, $10,000 will struggle to save $1,000 as well. So the point I'm trying to make in here is, wherever you sit in that level of hierarchy, you will find that challenge in terms of building up your savings. And I bring in some, very smart financial strategies during my consultations as well for people who have this Ketu combination. I've given it depending on the chart. So I don't want to throw a generic remedy here because it can really backfire. And that is why I'm refraining to do so. But given that impact, yet you would enjoy feeding people. And that's a very, very good thing to do. It's in fact one of the good remedies as well, generic remedy if I may call out. It brings sometimes very harsh tone in your language. Your words could be so hard that they could literally slice a person's heart with your tongue, with your word itself. So it's a challenging combination with respect to your communication capabilities as well. From here, it aspects your sixth house. There are bound to be some lack of interest because it is giving an aspect to the sixth as well as to your 10th in your karma professional work as well. Now, of course, if the dignity of your sixth lord or 10th lord is good, again, I recommend you to go out and check my Lagna Lord videos, Lord of Houses videos. That will give you a lot of clarity. But Ketu's placement here, it does have a role to play in terms of your ability to constantly strive at your workplace itself. It gives an aspect to the 8th, but that aspect is much more diminished given it is bang opposite to itself, and Rahu will have a certain role to play in that particular house. My belief is that Rahu and Ketu's aspect to the 5th is much stronger to the 9th. So Ketu in this placement does bring the possibility of you acquiring ailments, diseases, unexpected financial crunches coming in your way, and they can be big in size once they come. They bring a lot of transformation with respect to the financial transformation too, financial aspect as well. All right. So we will now move ahead and talk about Ketu's placement into the 3rd house. Now, when Ketu comes into the 3rd house, it is into the house of short distance travels. It is into your formal communication. It is in a house from where you see your hobbies as well. And a lot of time, what I've observed is that people with this combination, they tend to be introverted by nature. Now, what do I mean by that? Because when I tell people that you are an introvert, they assume that I am saying you are not talkative and you are not able to exude your ideas, put it forth in front of the world. But that's not exactly what I mean. By introverted, I mean to say is that it takes you time to put together your thoughts and then open it up to the kind of people you are in a room or in an email in a digital world or any form of communication and express that in the right way. Because Ketu tends to go towards perfection. People will tell you that people in this combination with Ketu in the 3rd house, they've perfected their communication. No. They are trying to find the best way to communicate their thoughts to the world. And that is why they struggle a lot with this thing, because it is an ever evolving, ever changing process for them. It's an externalization of the expertise that they hold. They have their thoughts in place, but they take time to express express it out to the world. Ketu in the third house will again have a significant impact in the level of spiritual journey that you take. It is going to somewhere or the other bring in karmas to your life, which will require you to gather knowledge, information, work hard towards getting that spiritual thought process, that spiritual leadership inculcated. It tends to take you away from anything that can bring you excitement. It makes Jack a dull boy at times, but at the same time, it can bring laser energy into one very specific area. Because I think one of the idioms is all work, no play makes Jack a dull boy, if I remember it rightly. That's exactly what happens here. But remember, no play is what people tend to focus on, but all work, or maybe just one work, is what this Ketu is telling you here. You have to focus yourself to the level of madness towards one specific area and keep on building your expertise in that sphere of life. And you will see with some of the most prominent sports people as well, they will have this combination. They are not one of the most expressive people, in the field, but they are pretty good in the sports that they are playing. Vis-a-vis the reverse combination of Rahu in the third house, where they could be equally good and equally expressive. And I would want you to go and do this homework right now and check this thing out. Because this Ketu is bringing that natural Mars energy along with itself, that Scorpio energy along with itself into the third house as well. In fact, one of the biggest cricketers from India, who is, I think, or was the captain, and I've not been watching cricket for a long time, happens to have the same combination. And the reverse combination was in place with, I think, if I'm not wrong, with Virat Kohli. So Virat Kohli has Rahu in third and Ketu in ninth, whilst Rohit Sharma tends to have Rahu in ninth and Ketu in third. And you will observe this in the way they will be expressive or aggressive. Aggression is a totally different thing, but that introverted behavior, which is what I'm trying to tell you, that articulation of communication is something will be very, very different versus a Rahu being present here. So that introvert nature comes into play. The other bit that you will realize is that the expertise in one specific hobby, one specific interest, and I urge people with having Ketu in the third house, you need to identify what is your deepest passion. Because if you do that, you are going to find some of the biggest success in life. Or else, this same Ketu brings the risk of being super lazy. I have observed so many times in multiple consultations now that people with this combination tend to bring a lot of lethargy in themselves. It takes them a lot of motivation, energy, push to come out of that inertia and start working. Because third house signifies hard work. And Ketu tends to deal in it itself. Yes, malefics do well in the third house. Rahu does better actually. So Ketu works when it is emotionally connected with something, when it finds its passion with something. And when that happens, the kind of outcomes this Ketu can deliver can be unparalleled. And you will be surprised with the kind of success you can find with this Ketu. Now, the tricky part also for us to understand is this Ketu is again giving an aspect to your 7th house, 9th house and your 11th house. Unless and until you are able to associate yourself with one of that passion in life, your gains will get stunted. Your success will get stunted in life. The moment you are able to align that laser energy, you are able to see that how your desire fulfillment automatically starts happening. But guys, remember, with Ketu, even in my transit videos, I've emphasized to this point. You have to associate yourself only with the process and disassociate yourself with the outcome. And thereby with Ketu in the third, because it is coming in the Kam Trikona, with Ketu in the third, you have to focus towards that one area of life or maybe top 3 priorities of your life that will give you immense satisfaction Rest, everything will be taken care of. It can bring in certain turbulences in your married life as well. Now, this doesn't mean that it denies marriage in any form. It completely depends on multiple other aspects, that how harsh, good, strong, bad this impact can be. But as I said a few minutes back, the impact of Ketu's fifth aspect, in my understanding and my belief system, is stronger than the ninth aspect. And it is the reverse in my mind for Jupiter. And we will talk about it when we come to the Jupiter series in the series itself. This Ketu can take you away from your house, from your home, related to work. It can bring a lot of travel to your life as well. But mostly, it could be a short distance travel. You will find that there is a possibility of a religious place, a place of worship around your home with this placement. And you might not be associated to that place, or you might not be visiting that place too often. But the chances of that place of worship of the same religion that you follow, be it a church, temple, mosque, whatever, is going to be higher. If it was Rahu, it will be the opposite case for you, right? And we'll talk about it. But you will tend to take short-term journeys as well in and around, related to your profession, related to spirituality, that could ignite an interest in you. You will also realize that many of the people with this combination will be working in the communication industry. You will be working in the networking industry, and you will have to do some very analytical sort of work, some very specific work. For example, I've seen people in the networking space. They are Cessna experts, for that matter. That's a very specific domain that you have to work in. Ketu in third house, pretty prominent. I hope that gives you some of the significances of how things are panning out in this case. We will now talk about Ketu in the fourth house. Ketu in the fourth house is a beautiful yet a tricky combination. Why do I say beautiful? Because Rahu goes into 10th. But we're talking about Ketu's significances here. And when Ketu is coming into the fourth house, first and foremost that you will notice is that there is an inability to express emotions, a challenge in terms of expressing your ideas the right way, your emotions in the right way. I'm sorry, not your emotions, not your ideas, your emotions. Somewhere or the other, you will find a hard time to understand what's happening in your own mind, in your heart. First, you have to understand what's happening within you before you go back and tell someone else as to what you feel about it. And this is one of the you know biggest juxtaposition that is coming into play with people with this combination, because with Rahu in the 10th, you will find that they are very confident and expressive and whatnot. But deep down inside, there is this confusion. They are juggling with their own emotions. And you could also find that somewhere or the other, there could be some level of dissatisfaction with your mother. It could be that there could be an early departure of some of you from your mother. You could have a stepmother come in your life. You could have a situation where your mother might be much closer to another sibling of yours. It is a possibility that it could bring in miscarriages, abortion kind of situations to your mother post your birth. Those kind of scenarios, physical manifestations also come true with this combination. People with this combination also end up, in my observation, they also end up living in the suburbs, or they end up staying in societies or in neighborhoods which are not one of the most premium neighborhoods in the city or in the town that they're living in. Because Ketu tends to take you away. It you will have a home in one part of the community, in one part of the city, and the city expands and grows, and some things happen and you want to make your profits, and you shift further away into another location which is cheaper, and you bank on some of that real estate profit. Now, that would be a smart strategy. Yes, I agree. But Ketu will force you in that direction as well. People with Ketu in the fourth house must go away from their home. It is a very strong possibility that they might find professional success once they shift away from their place of birth, you are born in Vikasnagar and you go and get settled in Ludhiana. That's a combination that might come into play. And it's true. It's if somebody finds this combination, it's not just for you. It's true for everyone with Ketu, the fourth house. You will find professional success away from your workplace. You will find growth at times when there is some level of distance from your mother as well. So post marriage also denotes growth for people with Ketu in the fourth house. You will find that people with this combination will be very good in terms of reading the emotions of the other people. Yes, they will struggle in terms of understanding their own, but they will be able to, that level of intuition, which is what I was talking about, that intuitive energy that Ketu brings into the first house, it carries the same energy in the fourth as well. But remember, this fourth house happens to be the natural house of Cancer or Moon for that matter. And the biggest enemy of Moon is Ketu. For Sun, it is Rahu. So, because Rahu is the one that casts the eclipse on the Sun, while Ketu is the one that casts the eclipse on Moon. The south node of the Moon is the darkest place on Moon as well. I mean, it is scientifically also, we talk about that Moon mission as well a few days back, and I'm pretty sure you guys can go and check that out too. So it's a dark place for Ketu to be in, and it is not one of the best placements from a Ketu's perspective. Yes, it works well, augurs well for Rahu, but not so well for Ketu here. You will have to check in the dignity of the fourth lord, and also observe if there is an aspect of Jupiter into this house or not. So Jupiter, if sitting in conjunction or sitting in the 12th house, 10th house, or in the 8th house, will be aspecting this particular house. And it is very important for you to understand that how Jupiter is supporting you in bringing some strength to this. Now, Ketu here will also bring some level of dissatisfaction. You see that you will not be satisfied in your own place. Like you would be like, I'm not able to map with the people mentally and emotionally. You will not find them at the same level as you. It's just that when you move somewhere else, that is where there is an upliftment that comes to your soul, to your mind, to your energy. From here, it aspects your 8th house, it aspects your 10th, and it aspects your 12th house as well. So specifically, if you're interested in international journeys and international relocation, that could be of some interest to you. It can bring in some spiritual enlightenment as well. It can bring in some spiritual growth as well for you. It does bring the possibility of people with this combination working in isolation. They will need some time, no matter what your work is. You are an architect, you like to draw your drawings by yourself for some time before discussing it with your team. You will need that. You're a politician, you need to go back and strategize alone what I'm going to do next before I plan it with my workers and push the agenda in the public or whatever in my marketing campaigns. But that level of isolation, that level of self-discipline, that level of self-discovery is very, very important, even though you will struggle with comprehending some of your emotions. But still, you must continue and push towards doing that. Now, when Ketu comes into your 5th house, what you will observe is that Ketu in the it's again very similar to the 4th and axis. There are certain good things about it and certain very, very challenging things. Ketu in the 5th can be very disruptive for your romances. I have seen significant amount of time, more often than not, people have failures in their romantic pursuits with this combination. There is a major heartbreak that gets associated with this combination. Major heartbreak. And God forbid, if you get a Ketu Dasha in this case, it can be life altering. So it's a very, very challenging position from your romantic pursuits itself. And please go and check your 5th Lord, 7th Lord positions and planning around your marriage and stuff if you have Ketu placement here as well, because you will have to understand that one or the other significances of Ketu will come into play here. Either it hurts your romances, or if it has not given an impact, and your 5th Lord has saved you somehow in that particular aspect, getting in connection with Jupiter, some relationship with the 7th house, you will have to see if it brings an impact for your childbirth or not. There will be consequences on that aspect. I have seen it now so many times. I've done consultations of more than 500 charts in the last few years. It does tend to bring an impact in one or the other areas. A turbulent Ketu here can be tricky for childbirth. It could bring in complications related to childbirth. It could bring in delays. It could bring in, I don't want to scare people, but there are situations of very specific kind of medical issues coming in for people for the kids with this combination as well. Okay. Now you don't have to be scared because it not necessarily be in your chart. Your 10th house, 6th from 5th could be in a much better state to safeguard you, right? Your 7th house in itself could be much better for you to safeguard on other aspects. But I have observed that in Ketu Dasha, typically some or the other challenges with, either romance or childbirth or severe financial trouble or medical emergencies, they tend to crop up during this period itself with Ketu in the 5th. Ketu from here is aspecting your 9th as well. It is aspecting your 11th house and then your Lagna. Again, some or the other attributes will be there in yourself for being aloof. Maybe that pivot comes after the impact of the 5th house Ketu in your romance or to your child or to your education. There are so many situations where this Ketu can bring a break. And this is not a break because Saturn will bring a break, but he will not deny. Ketu can literally deny you education. Like there is a sudden disruption and you're not able to pursue your education any further. And you have to jump into a job. You have to handle family pressure for financial situations and things like that. That kind of a turbulence also comes into play. You have to be I will not recommend you to be a trader in speculative industries at all for yourself. If you're doing that as a job for somebody, that's a different ball game. And you need certain combinations to see that as well. However, I will not recommend Ketu's presence in the 5th house to force yourself into, trading for your own gains. It's going to be very, very tough unless and until you have some deep interest, knowledge, passion in that space itself, and you try to do it creatively, you try to do it differently than others. Like you build a specific algorithm for algorithmic trading, and you can go about managing your portfolio through that. That's I mean, it's a much more professional landscape, and I think it is more of what you are doing as self-employment. And 7th construct will also come into play because Ketu is not impacting that. That's another story. But having said that, this Ketu will at some point of time take you to a temple. It will take you to a place of worship, and you will go with a deep need, with a deep desire to be saved, with an energy to be, this some, one of the challenges that I observed with this Ketu is that somewhere there is a lack of ideas that tends to happen with a specific sphere of life. And you have to identify that what that sphere is for your chart, for you as an individual. It cannot be a generic recommendation that I can give you in this call, in this video itself. But I hope it gives you some sense in terms of understanding that where that dissatisfaction, that challenge will come in your life. Yes, Rahu on the other side can bring in a lot of materialistic gains, and we'll talk separately about it. But outside of all those things, this Ketu, if leveraged to that spiritual connection, if leveraged with the right mentor in life, say Jupiter helps you somehow, or the 5th lord in itself gives some sort of an aspect without being aspected by Ketu, then it gives a lot of strength to the same chart itself. You might be able to grow in the ranks in your work, in your profession, if that Ketu is rightly aligned to you, with the support of, and again, the support not necessarily has to be a spiritual support. The support could be in terms of an ideology, in terms of a belief system that you might share with your management, with your leadership, with your boss, or any guru that you consider in life. But with Ketu in the 5th house, I want you guys to remember that there is that innate ability, some innate skill, creative skill that will exist within you. Some sort of a hobby, some sort of a passion that will stick with you. lot of times people will say it is your ability to play a music instrument or something, some creative habit. Not necessarily. You could have a skill in calculations. You could be a great mathematician. You could have the ability to, cut things open and detect. As an engineer, as a doctor, in whatever profession you are, you have some strong culinary skills in itself with you, which brings you this natural ability to experiment with the kind of food you are preparing and then going about it, because it is giving an aspect to your ascendant. It is having some of that intuitive tendency, like the first house itself, as we talked with Ketu in the first house, which comes along with this placement. And if you are able to somehow identify what that skill is, what that capability, that ability is, then the same combination can give in a lot of beautiful outcome as well. So it's something that you will have to think about as you watch this video and see if you've already discovered it, or if it is something that you need to sit back and identify within yourself. It's a tricky combination from Ketu's perspective. There is a lot of good things that happen with Rahu in the 11th, and we'll talk separately about it. So don't be scared, but my job is to call out both aspects here. Now, when Ketu comes into the 6th house, Ketu coming into the 6th house does not form Shatruhanta Yoga. Okay, a lot of times people have come to me asking this in consultation as well, and I think there is this some sort of misinformation which is flowing around that Ketu forms Shatruhanta Yoga. No, it doesn't. Ketu gives you the ability to disassociate yourself from your enemies. That is the beauty of this Ketu. This Ketu here is telling you that you don't have to take a battle head on, or you might not even have an interest of taking a battle head on. You are running your own business. I have this very keen client of mine. He's here in Sacramento in US, in California itself, and he had these people suing him on for cases and stuff, and we worked over the year to find the right dates and how to come out of it, and thankfully it has positively transpired for him now. But you know every time he was trying to take the battle onto them, he was struggling with it. And the moment he took he disassociated himself out of that entire situation and tried to ignore his opponents, the outcome was completely different. They gave up on fighting that battle with him. So the point I'm trying to make is, sometimes you will have intuitively this energy in you that you would not associate yourself with things that you consider worthless. You will find with this combination that you don't find it worthwhile to invest your time, effort, energy into battles that don't require your energy. And the negative side to the same thing is, because 6th house denotes job, it denotes your daily regimen, your daily schedule. You will struggle to keep up with a daily schedule. You will struggle to be disciplined in life. You will struggle to have that focus in your profession. You might not enjoy your work at all. You might want to get out of that job and seek pleasure in some other job. And that is where I keep on saying, find that one passion, because Ketu will definitely bring that for you. And it will give you success with your job, with your career in this placement as well, sitting into the 6th house. But more often than not, because it impacts your 10th house, 12th house, and 2nd house as well, you see that there is an impact that comes to your financial gains, to your growth, to your career stability as such. And if you are somewhere able to find that groove, that rhythm within your career, you will find that there will be a stability in terms of your income stream too, in terms of your savings as well. Of course, there are certain remedies. When I was talking about Ketu in the second, I was referring to a couple of things from a remedy perspective to enhance your savings and stuff. But I think identifying that one area of interest, that one area of passion is very, very critical. Now, at the same time, what happens is that Ketu's placement here, you do have a very strong probability of carrying something which is chronic in terms of disease. You could have, a long-term hidden medical situation that might crop up pretty late and has grown over a period of time, or it is like an heredity issue that you carry. It could be something as simple as a blood pressure issues, or cervical issues that women have, or a diabetes kind of problems. There is a lineage that gets associated, and it is carried with you for a long time. It takes time for itself to reveal it to you. Ketu in this house is definitely not a placement where I would urge you to go and take the battle head on from anyone. Any kind of, you have to put a priority list, a pecking order for yourself as to what you will choose to ignore and what you would choose to invest your time in, because this is what this Ketu asks from you. You will have some sense, some sixth sense coming into play where you will tell, this person is actually here to waste my time. And when there is a worthwhile contender, a worthwhile fighter for you, you will, you know, bring in some expertise to make things happen for you. Like you will know how to articulate and strategize for that battle, for that war. That's the beauty of the same Ketu as well. So you understand how you have to tackle it. Now, I don't really call it Shatru Hanta because Shatru Hanta means demolishing your enemies. This is not about demolishing enemies, guys. This is not about demolishing your obstacles. It's about finding the right escape, is not the word, but the right alternate to the obstacles, to the challenges, and then overcome that. Because if you are finding an alternate road, an alternate path, might as well be overcoming those problems. So you have to think from that angle when Ketu comes into this placement for you. I prefer the opposite, and we will talk about once Ketu gets into 180 from this place. But I hope it gives you an understanding what Ketu in the 6th house will transpire. Now, when Ketu is in your 7th house, with the 7th house placement of Ketu, what you will realize is that this in general is not considered one of the best placement when it comes to partnerships, when it comes to the marital bliss. Somewhere or the other, Ketu being that malefic, that karaka of separation, striking, he tends to bring in some level of disparity in your married life. You would have noticed that people with this combination who are already married, it does bring the yoga of either separation manifesting in mental or emotional level. What do I mean by that? You are not aligned with the thinking of your spouse. You are diagonally, tangentially opposite to each other. You want to approach life in one direction whilst your partner wants to take completely another route. Or you might not have right alignment in terms of your values, the way life in itself, the way you want to lead your life. Or it could also result into a physical manifestation of the same where you observe. And I see more often that than not that physical manifestation is a resultant of mental manifestation itself. It starts with the emotions, it starts with misalignment, non-alignment towards strategic thinking, and then transferring into how you are leading your life. You start sleeping in different bedrooms. You stop physical touch, contact with your partner, or in worst case scenarios. And again, please guys, just Ketu's placement is not the karaka for that. You will need at least one or two more combinations. But yes, it can result into divorce as well. It can result into permanent separation too. Sometimes this placement of Ketu may still give this result without giving that mental manifestation, emotional manifestation, but just the physical manifestation. How does that transpire? You get a job transfer. You have to travel for work and stay away from your spouse and family for long duration of time. You have taken up an assignment in a different geographical location. These kind of situations can also arrive. And in that case, the higher probability is that Ketu is working well for you. Yet, because it is his job to bring that outcome, that signification in life, he tends to bring in through a different fashion, an alternate route. And it may not be permanent. But yes, it could be of a considerable duration in time, 3 years, 7 years. I see 3 and 7 very closely mingled with things associated with Ketu. It can bring in like 3 months, 7 months kind of periods where you have to be continuously away from your spouse, from your partner. If you are a business person and watching this video, I will urge you to please run your company, your enterprise, your startup, being a solo entrepreneur. That would be one of the best mechanisms for you to find success. And I will harp on this fact. Ketu in seventh house doesn't mean it will not bring success to you, because Rahu is again in the ascendant in the first house itself, and it can bring such strong way of thinking capabilities. But the way you are going to deal with the public, the way you are going to deal with your alliances, with your partners or your spouse in a personal space, is going to have some sort of a cold impact. And it is not the cold of Saturn, but this is the cold of not being on the same page. And thereby, if you are an entrepreneur watching this video, my suggestion to you will be, it's a remedy, it's a advice, howsoever you would want to take it. If I understand a little bit of astrology, I suggest you to chart your own path, because you will have a very differentiated thinking with the Ketu's presence in here as to how you see the world. Your outlook towards running a business could be about creating value and not necessary profits. For you, you will understand that profits follow the value. There are so many entities and companies existing in the world that focus on the fact that they're chasing the bottom line or the top line for that matter. You are the people who will think about value creation. A resultant of it will come automatically to you. However, it is also important for you, if you want to work in collaboration with somebody, if you want to make your marriage work, if you want to make your partnership work, and that is a necessity of life, then you have to also understand that you have to find common grounds to work with, because that common ground, that common principle is going to be the key to success, the key to the positive outcome of this partnership. More often than not, couples who have a spiritual alignment, and again, that spiritual alignment could be doing some kind of community work together. It could be taking a travel together. That spiritual alignment could be having that one cup of coffee every morning or every evening together, no matter how busy we are in lives. If that is there, that alignment is there where you naturally, mutually come together to make one thing happen. Trust me, folks, don't be scared of Ketu present in the seventh house and turbulating your marriage, because that one common thread, that one common theme is going to hold you there. Ketu is coming here to tell you that you've had deep pleasures in marital bliss or in partnerships in all your lives. And he's distracting you from this. He wants to liberate you from that frustration because you've already done that. But that's not how we operate in this materialistic world, in this modern era, in this Kali Yuga. So if you have to still work by the bindings, by the principles of the era, of the system, of the Desh Kal Patra in which we are operating, you better try and find areas that align the two spirits together. If you are working in partnerships in a business, see what is the vision, mission of the company that you want to partner with. Actually, if they have a mission or vision or not, are there any principles, any values that they've penned down for their company, for their employees? Does it align to the culture and values that you've set forth for your employees? And folks, I'm not talking jargons here. Even if you are running a small business of a boutique shop where you have 10 tailors stitching up some clothing business suitings for you, or if you are running an online e-commerce giant organization, or you are running an AI business, or you are running a cloud kitchen, all of them will have a common theme. You will have to have a certain kind of value. How do you treat your customers? How do you treat your employees? What is your policy behind it? And then you work with partners, with suppliers who have similar thinking, that we are going to always create fresh products. And if something is not fresh enough, maybe we'll donate it to an animal charity. Immediately, you will see the quality of companies that you will be collaborating with will attract a long-term partnership with you, and you will find business success as well. So many times I've seen people asking this question to me that, Dev, I have Ketu in seventh. Will I find business success or not? And I have this ambition. Why not? I had this vice president of one of the large chemical companies in India. Yes, some of the other effects were coming in his personal life, but this guy was so enthusiastic. His 10th house was so strong about running something of his own, and he has this deep desire to come out of it. And some astrologer has told him, because Ketu is there in your seventh, you will never be able to achieve it. Guys, one planet cannot hurt you completely all your life and deliver negative results only. That's a very myopic way of looking at things. You have to see the larger picture. The planet is telling you that I like to work in principles. I like to work with a certain spirit. And you have to just bring that spirit in your relationship to in your marital life as well, and you will find success. Ketu sitting here will be aspecting your 11th. He wants you to be focused towards what you are doing and not about the targets. So even if, say, you are a salesperson watching this video and you have a revenue target, on top of your head, do not focus on the number, but focus on what you are able to offer to your customer. If you have a desire of certain things from your spouse, remove your focus from that direction and think what kind of value you can bring in your marriage. And you will see that your partner will automatically start reciprocating in the same language to you. It will be aspecting your third house as well. And this is one tricky bit that I have observed with Ketu, either forming a connection with third house, being in third house. And I talked about the same when Ketu was in the third house segment as well. That tends to bring this tendency of dropping the ball. Like you have to fight this tendency of procrastination. You have to fight this tendency of not being lazy. You have to fight this ability to go out and express your thought process, because you are not expressive enough in this combination here as well. And these are natural remedies. People who are asking you to invest in money, dime to do XYZ activity, folks, it is not required. Most of the people who come to my consultation, they know the kind of hard remedies I give you. Because I don't like to charge a person that give me XYZ dollars and I'm going to get you a stone made and I'm going to do this puja for you in Kashi Vishwanath. No. Shivji has given everything to you. So if Shivji has given this Ketu in 7th to you, he is also blessed you. So please take this, because there is so much negativity around Ketu in 7th. I'm trying to emphasize to my level best that you have to come out of that mindset. Now, as we talk about Ketu getting into the 8th house, this again has a lot of notions. It has both positives and negatives associated with it. But I have a different perspective when I look at Ketu in the 8th house, and I will talk about that first. When Ketu comes into the 8th house, it brings a possibility of you having a nature where you might not find yourself very close to your in-laws. You are a person who has least expectation from your in-laws, or you are not expecting any kind of monetary or materialistic benefits coming in from your in-laws. In fact, naturally also there will be such kind of a scenario in life that either they would not like you or you don't like them, or there is an absolute loss of in-laws as well. What do I mean by that? You end up marrying to your spouse who's orphan, who has no family background or history. And it's a beautiful thing. You are giving family to somebody who doesn't have a family before meeting you. So whilst people are scared of Ketu in the 8th house as well, it's a beautiful combination, because it gives an ability to you to do something good for others, to your partner. You have zero expectation from your in-laws, whilst you might end up doing something for them without asking them anything in return. Then in so many cultures, there is a practice of gifting and stuff. I'm avoiding terms like dowry, but I'm specifically referring to gifting because it's culturally present across continents. Ketu in this gives you a tendency of disassociating yourself with that kind of a mindset. You would actually go ahead and urge them not to do. Ketu here brings very strong, acute knowledge and understanding of the occult sciences. Some of the astrologers, many of the astrologers rather, will have this combination, Ketu 8th energy within them. In fact, Ketu in water signs tends to have this capability. It has this innate intuitive tendency, because water also tends to store information. It tends to harp information. So, of course, your zodiac sign could be completely different for the 8th house, but that ability to think intuitively, to make predictions, to understand what is hidden, what is the unknown, and traverse your way in that path, in that area, is going to come naturally to you. It is going to be very innate. The combinations, conjunctions can have a dramatic effect, by the way, guys. And I will make separate videos of conjunctions of different planets like a Venus or a Jupiter, of Ketu, Mars and Ketu, tricky in the 8th house. But we will talk about that separately. But Ketu's presence here will give you a tendency to do some high-end research as well. You could get into the microscopic elements of life, microbiology, nanotechnologies, quantum mechanics, quantum technologies across AI and stuff. That is the level of expertise and interest that you can have. If you are a young person watching this video, please derive some positive outcome of this and think if there is a connection of this Ketu with your 10th Lord, with your 6th Lord, or your Lagna Lord. And can you focus in any of these areas of interest? Because this is what the future is going to be. And Ketu is going to promise success for you in this direction. Ketu from here is going to be aspecting your 12th house, your 2nd house, and your 4th house. Yes, it will bring a opportunity. It will bring a possibility for you to move away from your birthland, from your place of birth. You might end up settling in a different country, in a different region, in a different culture in itself. And success will come you. Research initiatives are going to be very important. You pursuing some sort of education abroad, research programs abroad, even related to spiritual aspects. You being a spiritual guru could be a combination that can come into play with Ketu in your 8th house. It's not a bad combination. However, it can bring some sudden problems in life. It can bring in some sudden departures. And there is a specific call, guys, that I've taken that I have, even in my personal consultations, I've refused to predict about mortality, lifespan and stuff. So I will choose to continue to not talk about elements, but there's a significant probability with in its dasha, antardasha, pratyantardasha, causing some or the other hiccups. It could be financial troubles as well. It could be sudden losses coming in your way, which you have least anticipated. But fear not. Ketu here gives you the ability to absorb them too and grow beyond. Because you've got the skill to experience what life and death is. You've very closely observed it. People in this combination, by the way, I will urge you guys also, not just with Ketu in 6th, but also with 8th, to explore medical professions. You will do extremely well, specifically with related to surgery or internal medicine, anything inside. Okay, and I'm not an expert if I'm using the right term or not, but what I'm trying to say is all your internal critical body parts that require very specific surgery skills, that require very specific catalyst kind of medicines to cure cancer, disease, tumors in the brain or different body parts, genital related cosmetic surgeries, all that stuff. Ketu will give you skill sets in that. Of course, you have to see combinations with 10th, 6th, 11th Lord and all that stuff and the aspects. Maybe with Jupiter and Venus as well in certain occasions. But I hope that gives you some clarity as to how this Ketu is going to pan out. Now, when we talk about Ketu in the 9th house, this is bang opposite to what we were talking about Ketu in the 3rd, right? And I had given the example of two famous cricketers and how their behavior is very different in this case. Ketu in the 9th definitely brings, at some point in time, it takes the person away from their motherland, especially in the later part of their life. It is going to bring lot of spiritual evolution. It is going to bring in a lot of enlightenment because see, Ketu is coming into the sign of Sagittarius. Okay. And many of you would not know this. Like all these planets in the solar system are revolving around the sun, including Jupiter, but sun itself is revolving around one of the black holes, and the direction that sun follows is Sagittarius across that black hole. Okay, so sun's position is in Sagittarius to the black hole around which it is revolving. Now, it is so interesting, right, that how Sagittarius becomes one of the most critical signs, and naturally it has been aligned with the most important houses, the house of fortune. So somewhere or the other, you've been very fortunate in life, which also means that in this life, challenges are bound to come your way. It could denote departure of your guru, your father, your mentor early in life. It could denote separation with your father, guru, or mentor due to ideological differences. But it also denotes support from them in the initial part of your life. You will be able to carve out your own spiritual journey as you evolve as a personality over a period of time. You will take long distance journeys to self discovery, not necessarily to places of pilgrimage. Yes, that might be possible as well. You might travel to long distances, and people do Char Dham Yatra, and they do 12 Jyotirlings, and they travel from different parts of the world to Makkah, Medina, Vatican City, whatnot. You could be doing that. That's very much possible, but you will take a very long drawn journey. It's a symbolism. Guys, you have to understand this. You will take a long drawn journey in your life to discover yourself, to find what your values are, what is your purpose in life. And it will be a hard fought journey because somewhere or the other, you've been so fortunate all your life of your soul that it has automatically come to you. Spirituality, yes, still comes to you naturally. You know what it means to be good, to be bad, to be right, or to be on the other side of the line. But in this life, you will see that it will be something that you will be drawn towards to move towards a purpose. And defining that purpose, the earliest that happens in your life is going to be the biggest discovery, the biggest success for you. You might not be happy. Many of you who are still not able to comprehend this combination at a spiritual level. And why I'm talking so much about this, I have my Ketu in 12th, okay? So I'm divulging some information here. So we'll talk about that as well. But you understand where I'm coming from. You will have to understand that in this material world, in this material journey, the faster you find that path, easier your material life would also be. This Ketu is giving an aspect to your ascendant, it is giving an aspect to your third house and to your fifth house as well. Romances could be the region that you discover or find that path. Severe financial trouble could be that cause. Your childbirth, delay in childbirth could be another reason for that. You will find that somewhere or the other, you will be good with communication, with expression, ideology, but you would still want to keep that only on a need to know basis with respect to your ideological thinking. I'm not talking about your formal communication, which Rahu is going to keep a hold of. I'm talking about more deep matters in life. You have your own way of thinking. Again, you are very intuitive creatures yourself with Ketu in ninth. You read people fast. You know what is coming. That is understood to you. Now we will talk about Ketu in the 10th house. This is bang opposite to Ketu in 4th, whilst Rahu is now coming in 4th and Ketu is coming into the 10th house. This is a profession where I recommend you folks to build something of your own. Because Ketu in 4th will not be happy, and you have to have some sort of creative pursuit, something that you have to that is very cyclic in nature, very fast moving. Or if you are working in a job, then I would urge you guys that you should keep switching your jobs, keep moving from one company to the other as often or as fast as you can, because that is exactly what is going to keep you operating well in your career. When Ketu is in the 10th house, you it's not that you don't get limelight, you do, but you don't bother about it. You don't care about the adulation which is coming from the world. And the more you do that, it's better for you, because then that adulation is going to chase you. That social respect is going to chase you. People are going to like you for the kind of personality you have. People are going to like you in this combination for probably not being too vocal, not being too aggressive. That level of mystique, that level of stoic, that level of silence is going to play very good for you. And you are going to find that material success will also follow if you are able to manage that effectively. Ketu in the 10th house does give that same tendency of lack of interest. It can make a person super lazy. It can make a person not interested in job, profession, work. Even if you're a housewife, homemaker, wow, you have to gather some courage to get up, get out of that bed and prepare a cup of coffee for yourself or for your family. You struggle with that. It's not that you're a complete failure. I'm not trying to say that. Of course, when other planets are coming into combination and conjunctions, things will change. But Ketu will give you that innate lethargy. He will not let you have that interest. Or you could not be a very social person. You would not want to do things in by publicizing it to what you're doing to the world. Even if you're working in a job, you would prefer working in an individual contributor role. You would want to prefer, in terms of taking a certain charge to yourself, finish that work off and then submit what was expected out of you into the GitHub library or into in whatever kind of profession you are. You just make your contribution and move away. And that is where people like you as well, because you don't harp for that fame. You don't harp for that credit coming in your way. But the moment you start thinking in that direction, somewhere you start struggling in your career, somewhere you start struggling in your profession. This is one combination in which a person really could get immersed in their job without seeing an impact or how much of the money that they are making. Okay. But this can be a good combination for a person to get in a medicine field. It can be a good profession for somebody to be, say, like a sharpshooter, sniper. Actually, Ketu in 8th also can bring that ability into play. So you will have to understand now, Ketu sitting in from here is going to be aspecting your second house, your fourth house, and your sixth house. As I said, as long as you are enjoying your work, you will not care about your finances. But that's the hardest thing to do in today's world. But these finances are going to work out for you automatically, dependent on the strength of your 10th lord, second lord, and if or not there are any benefic aspects of Jupiter coming into place. Hey, Jupiter comes and sits in conjunction with this Ketu here itself. Beautiful, you are sorted. Now you are going to be a person who will have very specific Jupiter related jobs. Say you are working in a bank and your job is to do fraud analytics. Beautiful combination. Now you will make money as well. Everything is sorted with the same Ketu. But conjunction is a story some other day. Right now, we're just talking about what Ketu is going to do in this place. We are going to cover all the planets, and then we're going to talk about signs, and then we're going to get into the combinations as well. So you will be able to comprehend your chart like an open slate. Ketu is going to be giving an aspect to your sixth as well. You will have to be careful with respect to your medical issues. You will have to be careful whilst taking loans, pushing yourself for any kind of new financial risks. Very careful with this Ketu itself. Because if not taken care of, it can give you the risk of developing some chronic problem. From a medicine perspective, it can bring in hassles related to legal affairs, litigations coming your way. Not something that you will be able to succeed or overcome easily. You have to just let go of things. This placement of Ketu is going to be specifically good if you are looking forward to align yourself into any kind of religious line of work too. Any social community sort of work, United Nations volunteering work. I'm just giving an example. Any kind of NGOs that you want to get associated with. It's going to be pretty good. It's going to, open doors for you for enormous amount of success in that particular sphere of life. So I hope this gives you clarity as to how this Ketu is going to be panning out once it is in 10th house. Now we will talk about Ketu in the 11th house. Ketu in the 11th house is a good combination. Many people do not enjoy this particular placement, but it is not only good because, of course, Rahu is sitting in the 5th house, but Ketu coming into the 11th house. One, it's an Upchaya house. It grows over a period of time. And this Ketu being a malefic can still bring a lot of good to a person's material gains as well. The only condition is, and it is the hardest condition, you have to work towards your desires without having desires. That's paradoxical. But what do I mean by that? I think when Ketu, and I've experienced this, at least in transit, and I've seen the outcome of it, folks. I'm speaking with a lot of responsibility here. Ketu, when it comes into the 11th house, it does take you away from your friend network, from your friend circle. It tends to bring a certain level of isolation. It's moving in a retrograde motion, remember that. So that 12th energy of isolation does flow with this Ketu within you. You will notice, specifically if it is in the first 10 degrees from the 12th house or the last 10 degrees of the 11th house itself, you will notice that it will bring in a tendency of being within yourself, confined. You will have a certain category of friends, a certain set of friends, but you would not want to democratize your time, efforts, energy too much with them. And especially as you start growing older, Once your Rahu matures at 42 and your Ketu matures at 48, you would want to be a loner. You would not want to spend time, and you will have a very small coterie of friends that you would want to be engaged with. That socializing angle is going to definitely reduce in life. Networking angle is definitely going to reduce in life. You will notice that with this Ketu's placement, that every time you have put an ambition that you've written down somewhere, that you've just talked about your family members or your kid, your spouse, and you've just started acting upon it without revisiting that discussion, somewhere in life it gets achieved. It just happens for you. And the more you start discussing about what you want to do, what you want to achieve, the further that desire, that further that ambition gets pushed out in your life's timeline. So, I don't know if I've told you a remedy already. You've deciphered the remedy, I hope, in that construct. So, that's what I mean. You have to work towards your desires without desiring them. Ketu in 11th can be beautiful for these material outcomes. It'll help you set very sharp objectives. You are going to derive gains with very specific knowledge, with very specific intel. People like who are in astrology, again, Ketu in 11th also will give success to you. It will bring in more customers. Now, you are great with astrology or not, you need 5 other combinations. This is going to bring in some money, definitely. It is going to bring in money from religious angles. I'm not talking spiritual here, religious angles. Religion is going to result in terms of bringing in some money for you. Some sort of community service will bring in material gains to you in your life with this position. From here, it is again aspecting your 3rd house, your 5th house, and your 7th house, the tricky bit which is coming into play. I would want you guys also to go and check the 7th house bit with Ketu. Yes, it can cause issues with respect to marriage. It can cause issues with respect to childbirth. It can bring in challenges with respect to romance as well. You might be dating somebody and that relationship doesn't continue, and suddenly, unexpectedly, something happens in life. You do find a happy marriage, or I don't know, a decent marriage, but not this first thing that you had prioritized for, and you don't realize that you had not asked for it and it has come your way without you asking for it. But some sort of a damage, because it's a malefic. Ketu has to deliver some sort of malefic effect as well in our life. So with that 11th, it is going to bring that sort of an impact to your life too. And you have to figure out that how and to which part of it, of your life, it is panning out. I would want you to work your ass off if you have this placement. If you've set a goal, if you've set a desire, now just forget about it. Now just work your ass off, because somewhere or the other, you have this tendency of dropping the ball again. And that's detrimental for you folks. So you have to figure out that how you push the agenda, how you communicate yourself to the world. Travel is going to be important for you. It is going to bring in success for you. You will have equal amount of challenges also coming your way with respect to your efforts with this Ketu's placement. Okay. Ketu in the 11th is going to bring equal amount of challenges as well. Sometimes travel has to be done intuitively. It has to be, it's like you will have this knack of planning a meeting, planning a getaway in the whims of your emotions, and you just feel like this is what I need. You should do that. You should definitely do that, because it is going to bring in some positive outcomes to you. It'll energize you, revitalize you to put that effort, because Ketu in 11th sometimes can make a person lazy too. Now, last but not the least, Ketu in the 12th house. Now, it's the natural sign of Pisces. It's the natural sign of moksha. It's the house of bed pleasure, spiritual desires, dreams. And Ketu tends to act very smartly. In fact, it's the favorite house location position of Ketu. And unlike all positions that I talk about Rahu and Ketu, where either Rahu is getting bit stronger versus Ketu getting bit stronger, this is the only axis in which both Rahu and Ketu are equally strong and equally powerful. And they can deliver prosperous results to a native. The only caveat is they have to be in good signs. Of course, signs can have their own play, the zodiac. But Ketu, when it comes to the 12th house, again, just like we discussed about the first house as well, and I would want you guys to go back and reflect on that as well. That just like the first house, these people tend to be very intuitive by nature. They are able to sense things automatically because Pisces is that ocean. And we were talking about information. I did talk about some bit of space, quantum, and all that stuff in the first half of the video. If you've not, please go back and check. You will enjoy that bit as well, hopefully. Ketu tends to bring that ability naturally to the native in this case. You will find that your intuition is going to lean upon the dreams that come to you. You are a person who is able to decipher dreams. Whatever dreams you have, you are able to construe a meaning out of it and see that what your soul or your subconscious mind is trying to communicate to you. So many times, people with this combination will have dreams of snakes coming around. They would see palaces, they would see certain animals, they will see very specific locations, they will see very specific characters coming in their dreams. It is this Ketu. And I believe it is like memories of your previous lives, of what your soul has seen before. It can also bring the ability for a person to interpret these meanings for a certain cause. It gives that intuitive ability. People with this combination are naturally psychic to a certain extent. They will be very caring towards the emotions, the emotional aspect of people. Because this Ketu, it is in the house of isolation, it is in the house of spirituality. They are naturally spiritual people as well. And more often than not, Ketu in 12th will bring a very deep, strong spiritual bent post the age of 48 in a person's life. They tend to take a course which is outside of materialism, and it is more of sharing with others. It's like Ketu is doing that journey towards moksha, towards nirvana. So he wants to achieve everything but leave everything behind as well. And that is what this Ketu is going to bring out in you. It is probably going to reduce your interest in the material aspects, in the physical aspects, in bed pleasures, so to speak, as well. Because don't get me wrong, it's not that you will lose the ability to do it, it's just that you will lose the interest towards all such areas. They can be very good, strong spiritual gurus. They will have their own way of thinking and analyzing things as well. So, Ketu in this placement is considered to be a strong one. It has an aspect to your fourth house, to your sixth house, and to your eighth house. And that is where, if you see the 12th house presence of Ketu and its connection to the eighth, it is again another sign of a person having very good, strong, differentiated knowledge of astrology as well. It could take a person away from birthplace, motherland. And I talked about this in the 8th house reference to, in the 4th house reference to. People in 4, 8, and 12th Ketu placement will have natural intuitive capabilities, will have natural tendency to prosper once they leave their motherland, their birthland, their birthplace in itself. And they will have some sort of emotional depth. In 4th, they struggle a bit. In 8th, they improve on it. And in 12th, they go to the next level of self-discovery. I hope, guys, you've enjoyed my take, my perspective, and my analysis as to what Ketu is doing across all houses. If you have enjoyed this, folks, it has taken me a lot of time and effort to put this together. Then please smash on that like button, subscribe to Dev Astrology, and keep watching. Om Namah Shivaya.